is on everyone's minds. Why do we have the ref? And I really like to use the metaphor of iceberg. What you can see sticking out from the surface is just an evaluation exercise, and it is a governance. It's an accountability tool. And so you can see it as quite an instrumental, functional aspect that the ref is trying to achieve. But I think there is a lot hiding underneath the surface. So underneath the surface, you've got all the signals and all the strategy, the politics, performance management, the structure and the culture, and how do we define excellence? What do we see as excellent science? How do we recognize and reward excellence, and how do we value it? How we communicate it. So I think underneath the ref, the what's hidden, is all the espoused values and the assumptions that we make about what is important.
Welcome to What the Ref, everybody's favourite podcast about the wonderful world of the ref. I'm Simon.
I'm James.
And I'm Gemma.
So, what's been happening in the pause this week? Oh, nothing again. There's a lot of news out there. I should point out about the with people speculating about what's going to happen. We're gonna come back and address these points and rumours when we have something a bit more substantive. We were talking earlier on. Maybe what we should do is have a competition for the best new rumour about what's happening during the pause. And if you want to send your ideas in, then please do WhatsApp Gemma directly because she loves to gossip. What has been happening this week? That was over to you.
Sorry, did you just pause?
I thought it was on the pause joke from last week. So this week we did an interview with the newest member of our team, Ola Thomson, who's joined the team at Bristol with Gemma to work on the kind of like the evidence base for the work we're doing on the Embedding Trust and Evaluation project. So should we just head into that interview, this little special episode, and then we'll come back and chat about it afterwards?
Sounds good.
That's great.
Okay, well, I'm delighted to be joined today by Ola Thomson, the newest member of our team and someone you'll be seeing at future Hidden Ref events and indeed probably on this podcast. Hi, Ola. How are you doing today?
Hi, James. I'm delighted to be here. So thank you for inviting me to the podcast.
Good. And you've been at Bristol a few months now, right? You're settling in well?
Yeah, it's been, I think it's a third week, and it's been already very exciting. And I'm looking forward to meeting everyone face to face in Birmingham shortly.
I think I said a few months there simply because it feels like you've been part of this for a while. I don't know. It seems like it's been a really busy few weeks. So yeah, had a huge impact already. I wonder if you could just start by kind of telling the listeners a little bit about yourself and kind of what motivated you to join the Hidden Ref team.
Sure. So my background is in business school, and I'm focusing on human resource management and organizational behavior. And the golden thread in my research interest is studying how we organize our workplaces and what policies and practices we put into place to support people in their roles. And the focus on my work has always been on knowledge work, and more recently, the research ecosystem as a workplace, so somewhere where we perform. And this intersects with gender equality, diversity, and inclusion. And the pull for me to join this team is that very much aligns with my research interests, and that the project that you're doing has a real long-term impact potential. And really shaping, the future of the ref and evaluation and institutional change. So this is something that really excites me about this project.
Cool. And I think what's really interesting about that is we often talk about roles and we talk about people, but we don't actually talk about workplaces that much when we think about the Hidden Ref. And so, yeah, bringing that perspective into what we do, I think is going to be really important because, of course, I'm in a workplace, you're in a workplace, everyone who submits to the ref is in workplaces, different parts of their working years. So yeah. So you've come from a different angle. You've not been someone who's doing kind of research on research. What is the ref to you? What's your relationship with it as a researcher, as an individual, as someone who works in the higher education system?
That's a really interesting question. And I think my relationship with the ref has been quite evasive, actually. And this is probably because of the nature and the length of the contracts, the employment contracts I've been on as part of the higher education system. But always at the back of my mind, I thought, well, one day the ref will get me and, it'll impact on me and my career. And it's quite ironic that actually I'm here trying to shape the ref and trying to have that impact on the ref first. So this is quite funny, but as a researcher, I find the ref as an incredibly rich source of topics to research, because you can look at organizational behavior, you can look at the systems, you can look at culture, organizational culture, but also incentives and what drives people towards a common goal. And institutional change is everything that's underpinning that particular interest and what is happening with the ref right now, actually.
I like the idea that as you kind of mature into your career, whoever you are, that at some point the ref gets you. It traps you, It captures you. That's really interesting as well. I mean, and a lot of the kind of the conversations we have around particularly things like the information we talk about in the podcast, or even like things to do with the Hidden Ref shorts, which some of you will know on the podcast. We've been doing a few of them and plan to do some more. There's something there always in my mind about like how we're speaking to different career stages, how we're speaking to different people. And you're quite right. Like for someone who maybe has been more precariously employed or is in those situations, ref is a really sort of, it's a strange thing in the distance, but it sort of can some extent sort of determine what sort of, career you're going to have and your ability to get certain roles. So I like this idea that it sneaks up on you to some extent. Also,
it does.
And also it's kind of nice to think that people don't have to think about the ref all the time as well, right?
They don't have to. And I think early career researchers particularly find it quite overwhelming and maybe intimidating. It's a beast that they don't want to deal with, or they haven't got time to read about it, how long it takes to read about all the documentation. And I think one thing that could change, but I'm sure we'll talk about this later, is raising awareness around the ref.
So we've talked about the ref thus far as something that's kind of this slightly intimidating beast that might capture us, but I guess we've got it for a reason, right? So why for you do we have it? Why is it here?
That's a really fascinating question. I think it's on everyone's lips at the moment. It's on everyone's minds. Why do we have the ref? And I really like to use the metaphor of iceberg when I think about the ref. So the ref really is, and what you can see sticking out from the surface is just an evaluation exercise, and it is a governance, it's an accountability tool. And so you can see it as quite an instrumental, functional aspect that the ref is trying to achieve. But I think there is a lot hiding underneath the surface. And there's a lot of speculation around, with the pause to the ref. And this is exactly what is happening. So underneath the surface, you've got all the signals and all the strategy, the politics, performance management, the structure and the culture. And how do we define excellence? What do we see as excellent science? How do we recognize and reward excellence, and how do we value it? How we communicate it. So I think underneath the ref, the what's hidden is all the espoused values and the assumptions that we make about what is important. And this is absolutely, playing out as we speak now. And suddenly it's not just about evaluating research, but suddenly it's about, having those conversations, how the ref shapes organizational culture. Because, I know a lot has been said about research culture recently. But actually, it is organizational culture that's been around for decades as part of larger organizational theory. So it hasn't just turned up. It's not just a fad. It's something to raise your oxytocin levels, and it's all fluffy and colorful. But organizational culture, and same as the research culture, is really crucial in shaping what kind of outcomes do you want people to achieve and building that nurturing environment. So I think the ref has an enormous role to play, and I'm really hoping that we'll get this right. And the pause is a little bit, concerning, and there's a lot of speculation around it. But I really do hope that we can turn it into something positive.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a big part of the hidden ref ultimately is trying to peer into that iceberg below the surface, and trying to understand what's there and trying to lift things out, to stretch the metaphor, lift things out above the waterline so they're kind of more visible,
Yeah,
ultimately.
and also I really liked the Marcus Munafo's reference in your previous podcast to Deming's top quality management. And he basically said that we need to look, if you look at after the process of production, because the Deming's idea was related to production of vehicles. So if you look at the production, the process, then the product and the output will look after itself. And he talked about reproducibility. But actually, I really like the idea of drawing on some other disciplines when it comes to looking at the ref, so human resource management and organizational theory, because there is a lot to learn and a lot to enrich our conversation about the ref. And, maybe for the right reasons, our research leaders often have that STEM background. But we could take, a lot of human resource management theory to enrich our conversations. For example, the resource-based view of the firm, where we recognize that our human resources are the source of our competitive advantage. And especially in the research ecosystem, our people are rare, they're hard to imitate, and they're very difficult to replace. So we need to really focus on a completely different set of policies and practices around nurturing people to achieve that excellence, and that significance and originality and rigor. So I think that bringing in different perspectives from different disciplines would really enrich that conversation. And, when you look at the very early models of human resource management, you can go back to the 80s and look at the Harvard model of HRM, where we already knew that creating, commitment, motivation, engagement, and giving people voice in an organization positively influences on outcomes and the bottom line, which in our case is the output, the research products. So I think that we want to embrace, interdisciplinarity and understanding the ref, and that really is a huge performance management framework. And I know that some people say, well, we should treat research culture as an input and as a condition of funding, but then you still have to measure it somehow and still have to establish it somehow. So I think the ref could play a really great role in signaling those right nurturing environments for people to thrive.
And what really taken from this conversation is that there is a whole kind of wealth of research out there that's trying to think about aligned things to what we've been working on. So, you mentioned interdisciplinarity. We've often spoken in kind of the hidden ref about the ways in which the rich cultures of evaluating non-traditional outputs that exist in parts of the humanities and social sciences in particular, can feed into perhaps different behaviors in some of the STEM subjects where they do these non-traditional research outputs, but are kind of more likely to then turn them into some kind of paper, and which maybe isn't the sort of the real version of the research, as it were. It's the token that gets assessed. But what you're clearly bringing here is a kind of different set of perspectives that come from kind of workplace studies and that kind of stuff, which is not an area I know anything about. So I'm kind of super excited to learn more about this as you kind of become a more integrated part of the team.
That's great.
Can I move on to a related topic to do with the icebergs, to go back to that, which is if we think about the ref as an iceberg, I'm wondering how this particular iceberg fits among all the other icebergs, all the other kind of research evaluation kind of frameworks that exist. So how do you see the ref kind of fitting in alongside that wider landscape, whether it be in the UK or that kind of more international landscape of how research is evaluated? Where does it kind of sit for you? Where does it kind of have parallels with, or where does it have discontinuities? That's a lot of questions.
A lot of questions and probably not one clear answer to that. So, but I do feel that the ref has a lot of power to shape not only our national practice, because let's face it, whatever the ref comes up with, it will trickle down to the institutional level policy, which can be linked to promotion, which can be linked to recruitment, which can be linked to people's careers. So it really does shape it, and maybe it shapes it at a very subconscious level, in organizations. That's why I think. That's why I think we can't leave the sort of environment, culture, and people to the HR department. We really need to be shaping it from the top. So it can be shaping a national policy, but also a lot of countries globally are looking and taking the ref and trying to adapt it to their needs. So it's a great opportunity to lead by example and to set a really good, a role model for others to follow and for others to be inspired by. And I think, everything that you evaluate, any kind of performance management system or framework is going to have a huge impact on people's behaviors. Even though, there is an element of deviance and kind of trying to maybe circumvent certain aspects or criteria, at the end of the day, people think, okay, that's what's valued. Okay, this is a signal for us to take this thing seriously. And therefore, I think it's a huge part of the landscape. That's for sure.
I think that's an interesting way of framing it, actually, a signal by which we take things seriously. Because, when we talk about publications, we talk about particular journals, for example, or particular presses as being signals to take things seriously. When we talk about people giving keynotes at conferences, they're like signals to take this person seriously. And we also know that, and Gemma's talked about this in previous podcasts about, that there are other international contexts in which similar kind of exercises to the ref have been fundamentally changed, stripped back, even removed in some contexts, and that's caused kind of perverse outcomes that have meant they've had to return. And I guess the point is, no one here is saying the ref is perfect. Maybe we'll come to that next, but having signals about the quality, whatever that means, of stuff, is really important in a research ecosystem. We can't exist without those. And I guess it's balancing those different forms of signals, right? We can't just rely on the cachet of a certain press as a signal for the quality of the research that happens in our ecosystem. So let's get on to that, things that can change then. So maybe without getting bogged into ref specifics, like thinking broadly about research evaluation, what do you think needs to change and why?
I think that so far, and I know that we don't want to talk about the ref specifically in this question, but I think there is a lot of this opaqueness in evaluation, and I think people just don't quite understand what and how this is happening. So maybe it's not transparent. Maybe there's a lot of gatekeeping in the system. There is a lot of, I know this person through that person or this institution, etc. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening behind your back. And I think there's some level of transparency and accountability and clarity around how your research is evaluated would be really good. And, I mentioned already early career researchers, and it's something that people feel overwhelmed or intimidated by. And I think more awareness raising could be brilliant, and maybe trying to get to people through different formats and different media, like podcasts like this one that you've got, or videos or storyboards or personas, to kind of bring it down to like an individual level where I truly understand what research evaluation means to me and how it's done. And there's not a stupid question that I can't ask. So very much awareness raising. But secondly, I think we really need to embed and double down on that human element in the ref. I would really like to, our leaders to see that, and Gemma did this paper about kindness, but it's not just kindness, it's just having that recognition of the human element in the process, and not just about outputs and products. And again, Gemma mentioned the battery hens, which is quite an illustrative example of research and the environment. An illustration of it. So I think bringing in that human element into evaluative frameworks is something that I would like to see.
And that human element is another signal of quality and trust, right? So knowing that the peers that exist within the community who are sitting on the ref panels and sub panels are people who you can look and say, okay, they're experts in my field. Even if I disagree with their assessment, I can understand at least it comes from that kind of human element. It's super important. And I guess going to thinking about other forms of research evaluation, like peer review, for example, that's been one of the big pushbacks in the last 2 decades, right? Sort of away from the mean opacity of peer review. And yeah, we still know there is value in double blind, but away from that mean opacity towards something that feels a bit more transparent. It feels like editorial boards or people on funding schemes are doing more work around trying to encourage reviewers to work in human ways, and ways that kind of supporting applicants, supporting people submitting articles, things for review. And in the peer review sector, there's certainly a lot more movements towards different forms of open in different forms, which has been really interesting. And so there's a sort of, the human is kind of pouring into research evaluation. And I guess what I find interesting about that is because you paired that with transparency, is that the problem of transparency, of course, is that loads of information doesn't mean transparency. We can publish as much as we want about the ref or about a research evaluation exercise of some form, or the outcomes or the processes, but there's just loads of stuff, then that's not really transparent. That's just overwhelming people with stuff they haven't got the time to consume. So having places like this, places like Hidden Ref Festival, to kind of try and simplify and try and kind of get key messages across, certainly I think is important in these kind of spaces.
Yeah, it's almost like a form of public engagement, but for our own consumption. And I think we've got to translate, this impenetrable, like you said, documentations and make it more accessible. And like you said, too much information is certainly not transparency, but more smoke and mirrors, I would say.
So to just bring this to a close then, so I've already learned that I'm going to learn a lot from you about different forms of workplace study methodologies, which is great. That excites me about the next few years working together. What excites you about the Embedding Trust and Evaluation project? What excites you about what we can achieve together as a team?
I sense very similar levels of energy and passion in this project already, and it's already and I've only just started, but I can definitely see the same level of enthusiasm that I experienced working on European projects around gender equality, in gender equality plans, in grant submission. So as a kind of mandatory criterion for submitting a grant. And I think I was thinking why, and I think the reason is that it's very much grassroots, and this project is owned by the community, and therefore, it feels really authentic and genuine. And it's something that people just want to happen. And that's why I really look forward to working with you. And that's why I applied for this role. So I'm really excited about the years ahead. And I hope that we can make a really great and long-lasting impact on the ref and the positive impact on the community.
Oh, me too. Thanks, Ola. Thanks for your time today, and thanks for introducing yourself to our listeners and viewers. And like I said at the beginning, you'll be seeing a lot of Ola over the next few years.
Thank you very much, James.
Thanks. So thanks, Ola, for giving up the time. And I think it says a lot about her impact on the project already, that I just assumed she'd been here for months, and then she was like, no, I've been here for weeks. So that says a lot, right? I think there's a lot to get stuck into there. Particularly, I think she teased us out of the kind of just specific ref research culture stuff into some broader spaces. Simon, do you want to come in on some of that first? I know you're really interested in the stuff you talked about workplaces, for example.
Oh, workplace! Absolutely fascinated by that, because we talk about the PCE, the people, culture, and environment, and you'd think that would be a lot about the workplace and the policies that are in place and within the universities, but it really isn't. It kind of tends to focus on other things. And my experience of the way that workplace policies, institutional policies are put into place is that if you go and talk to any individual, like literally any individual, about the kind of things that we're talking about, greater understanding of the work that's going on in research, better support for all the different roles that are important to or vital to research, then you talk to any of these individuals and they all agree and say, yeah, we should do things about that, we should change. And then you put those same individuals into a committee and suddenly the groupthink just takes over and the old order prevails, and they're like, well, let's just do what we did last time. So I think there's something really, like, it would be really interesting to go in and measure the way that the ref is changing local institutional policies. I'd be fascinated in that.
I think Ola's background in organisational behaviour is extremely important for this project. I mean, we know that when it comes to interpreting the ref guidelines, that the ref can set a guideline that's broad and inclusive and all the rest of it, but it's really the workplaces, the universities in this place, how they interpret them and how they implement them in their workplace that really, really matters when it comes to seeing what submissions look like when it comes to, December 2028 or whenever it is. And also I'm just so pleased that she's on the team. So, she had me at hello in the interview, and she also came into the interview with a joke that she put up on a presentation, which was an NTO walks into a ref bar and asks for a drink, and the bar manager says, "Oh, we don't serve your sort here." And the NTO replied, "Yeah, just wait, you'll be singing my song by 2029. And I think she got it, and she was extremely succinct. She's incredibly intelligent. Her background is right on the ball for this project, and it's a real pleasure to have her on the team. And she as Jane says, she's worked really well with all of us, and we've been working together for a long time. So it's really good to have somebody who works well with the team as well.
And so any of you who are a bit sick of the dynamic of the three of us will be pleased to hear that, Ola will be popping up on some more podcasts in the future as well to kind of break up our kind of like way of having humor. Yeah. Okay. So she also talked about ref being a black hole. I kind of like the black hole metaphor. That people don't know kind of what it is, why it's there, how it can help. It sucks energy in. I don't want to go too far down the metaphor because I'm not an expert on black holes, but
so I thought that was brilliant. I also thought this was a really lovely turn of phrase where she said, the ref gets you, like Rebecca Fairman's hiding under your bed, grabbing at your ankles as you get out in the morning.
Poor Rebecca.
So I really like that idea that, because it happened to me as well. I'd see, people getting agitated about the ref when I was non-ref returnable. And it wasn't until I started looking into it that I was first like, oh my word, like this is a really important thing that goes on every 7 years with huge consequences and an incredible amount of power to change research culture. So the ref got me in that sense. So I'm glad it got her too.
I think what's really interesting is exactly what you just said. So for me, obviously, it's completely implausible that anyone would not get anything or not understand anything about the ref from my perspective. But you're right, true, that people don't know. And I deal a lot, part of my job as a research director here at the University of Bristol is that I deal with a lot of early career researchers who literally come in and they do their induction meeting and the ref always comes up. What do I have to, what do I do? And I think that it's changed how they prepare for it. But more importantly, regardless of career stage across the university, you hear people changing their language. Simon, you just described yourself as non-ref returnable. And yet, and you will hear people talk about this is a refable person, or this is a refable case study, or this is a refable, output, etc. And then what is even more interesting and pervasive, perhaps, when the ref gets you, is people start describing individuals, regardless of the rules for the ref, which, it's about units of assessment and individual CKU outputs, etc. But they refer to each other as 4-star, 3-star. I don't hear anybody referring to themselves as unclassified, but perhaps that's a badge of honor we can perhaps do. But they are adopting the ref language when they are discussing career progression, when they're talking about assessing people both here within the UK, in the institution, but also internationally. Oh, that's 4-star, that's 2-star. Does it have rigor? Where's significant and reach? All of these words have pervaded how we discuss each other's contribution and the contribution of each university, to the extent that, I think it is a bit of a black hole. But
that ties directly into one of my pet hates, right? We were talking about, the role of people in success, and it's like when organizations go, people are at the heart of our business. It's like, well, of course they are. Like, what do you expect to find at the heart of your business? Like wombats or something? So it's just such a weird
there's
thing to
nothing
say.
wong with wombats. And I
I
just
know,
say there's nothing wrong with
I know,
wombats.
but I probably wouldn't trust them to do like a
Can I just
cardiac
say,
operation or
wombats
something.
like squash their prey by sitting on them with their very, very hard butts. That is, you have to respect that, Simon.
That's a brilliant metaphor
It's
for
a
working
brilliant
in
metaphor.
academia.
Anyway.
But you know what I mean? Like, of course, people are at the heart of your business. Of course, people are the thing that changes the way that everything is done, because it's all down to people. So obviously, we need a better focus on people and on the way that they are supported in institutions, and that's what the ref gives us.
And the funny
Well,
thing
what
is that
Ola
if you
takes
look
us
at
from, though, is like people to humans, right? Like, and that's the thing. It's like people, culture, environment, and it echoes that language of the institution around people being at the heart of institutions. But Ola was kind of drawing us towards the kind of thinking of the human and the human element as something, I guess, bigger than just the people,
yeah.
right?
Okay, I hadn't picked up on that. So explain more. What do you think she was drawing on there?
Well, like I say, I think it connects back into Lizzie's kind of interview last week. Well, last week before, whatever it is, you never know with podcast timelines, right? But like this idea that people kind of suggest that there's a block of individuals who work in an organization, whilst human kind of takes you into kind of the emotional lives of individuals and how they kind of respond to something like the ref, and it becomes more than just thinking of all the possible people, like the ref returnable people, or the people with the metaphorical 4 gold stars on their chest, into kind of like just thinking of rounded humans who respond to research assessment in different ways and contribute in different ways. I don't know. I felt that I came out of it with both the kind of the workplace culture stuff and the kind of the emphasis on the human. I came away from it thinking that this is someone here who's coming at this from a very different perspective than we probably do as a group, and that I normally hear in relation to thinking about the conversations about the ref.
I guess it's easy when you're talking in small groups, though, James, because here we are in small groups and we can talk about the qualities of each individual. But when you're talking about large organizations, recognizing the qualities of each individual becomes difficult. And perhaps one of the concerns of these nameless men in the committee room making the decision on whilst we're paused for the PCE is the fact that this is an evaluation, and there's going to have to be winners and there's going to have to be losers. Or if you think about policies, they're going to have to be policies that they want to promote as successful, that they, towards research culture change, filling the gender gap, filling the racial gap, improving career progression, etc. And there's going to have to be losers, the ones that are actually, this doesn't work, actually this is bad, or you haven't done anything. I guess that's the unclassified for a PCE, etc. And that means that normalizing the valuing criteria down to the individual level means that there are no winners and there are no losers. So what's the point in having an evaluation in the first place? There needs to be some sort of distinguishing feature between submissions to the PCE statement in order to make the evaluation a success, in order to, feeding back to what Lizzie was saying a couple of weeks ago, in order to facilitate the kind of culture change this research sector needs, or this university sector desperately needs. So
it reminds me of critiques of social mobility, right? That, everyone likes the idea of social mobility until they realize they might lose. Yeah. And there's something similar here. Everyone likes the idea of people culture. Well, not maybe everyone. Lots of people like the idea of evaluating things like the environments and culture of research happens until they realize they might lose from that.
Well, that's a dominant rumor, isn't it, behind the PCE pause at the moment, is the fact that it's led by people who feel like they're going to lose. And so they would rather put the energy into fighting against the existence of the criterion in the first place than perhaps, trying to improve their research culture. But, courses for horses, horses for courses.
I do like the fact that we start so many of these podcasts kind of saying that we're not going to engage in the rumors, and then we go back into the rumors.
Oh, yeah, we're totally engaged in the rumors. The thing is, in a pause, it's a bit of a black hole, and we have to fill it with something. So in the absence of someone putting their hand up and saying, hey, I'm that person who said that, and taking responsibility for their impact, then we're going to have to fill it with, gross rumors and gossip. Why not?
So on the last podcast we said, if you've got any rumors, then please do WhatsApp them to Gemma. Or was that this podcast? Then so maybe we need them in the comments, and also list all the names of the people who are in that smoky room that Gemma was talking about. No, not really.
Name and shame, people. Name and shame.
We really do not want to do that. But maybe now that we've got to this stage, maybe this is a good time to wrap this podcast up.
Well, just before we do, I think Gemma is working pretty closely with Ola. So what's coming up? What are the main things that Ola's working on the next few months?
Thanks.
Just very quickly, you can tell us about.
Very quickly, James, have we met? Very quickly. So the next thing we're doing is at the Hidden Rest Festival, which we're all very close to right now. And we're really looking forward to seeing everyone there. And Ola and I are actually leading an experiment during the Hidden Ref Festival about looking at trying to do some think aloud experiments on how we evaluate non-traditionally submitted outputs in a way of developing the guidelines for the next Hidden Ref Festival in 2026 and experimenting them as part of the evaluation procedure too. So that's, something that we're all going to get involved with at the Hidden Ref Festival. And again, that really, really, really resonates with the values of the Hidden Ref, which is that all the evaluation guidelines will be community-led and grassroots level. And so we will hopefully be developing that, testing them at the next Hidden Ref competition. And then in a couple of years' time, whenever they decide to do the next ref after the pause has been lifted, implementing it into the evaluation criterion along with the Research Diversity Advisory Panel.
Amazing. And due to the joys of the kind of time shifts of podcast, you may or may already have experienced that experiment at the Hidden Ref Festival. By the time this goes out, we shall see.
Either way, we'll report back on it on the next podcast.
So that's all we have time for in this. We'd like to thank you for joining us for another exciting podcast of What the Ref. If you have any queries, comments, or if you have any rumours, please do feel free to get in contact us with wtref@hiddenref-ref.org. What?
WTRef@hidden-ref.org. I mean, it's
hyphen. It's a hyphen. Or catch up with all the other What the Ref podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And if we see you at the Hidden Ref Festival, or if we have already seen you at the Hidden Ref Festival, we are both looking forward to, plus happy to see you there.